So I want to know, how did Jeff Petty get here
Right.
in life? And I'm saying, take me through your baseball and kind of how you ended up here.
Yeah, no, so I mean, I obviously grew up playing, my dad wanted me to play and was introduced to me young and all that, and played in high school and had a great experience in high school, truthfully. Played for a guy named Rick Holcomb here in like at Cortland High School in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And I was coming through and they wanted to win. It was very apparent. So I got that experience in high school where it's like the coach really wants to win and all of us want to win. And that was cool to learn that, at that age, and that kind of gets ingrained in you from the time you're 14 years old. So I was really fortunate. And I got to win a state championship my senior year. And I mentioned that just because I think that stays with you, or at least it did with
Yep.
me. Just experiencing that, and we thought it was a really big deal. And then went off and played in college, D2, ups and downs, quite honest, as a player.
Where'd you play?
I played at UNC Pembroke.
Yep.
Freshman year, I think I played 30, 35 games or something like that. And it was up and down. And then it blew my ACL my sophomore year at Christmas, and then missed a whole year. And never.
Were you playing basketball? Honestly, what were you doing? What were you doing at
playing
Christmas?
basketball? Yeah, playing basketball. Yeah, playing basketball. And quite frankly, coming back from that, I never really. I lost a lot of confidence and never really got back on the field. I did, but it was bad. But I loved the game so much. I knew I wanted to be in the game. So coaching was what I was going to do. So I graduated in 2004, and in 2005 took a PE job 2 miles down the road from my college. I wanted to come home, but I couldn't get a job anywhere up here in Virginia. Like PE teaching jobs up in Virginia are kind of hard to get.
You and I got a lot in common. You got a lot. I have a physical education background too, man. You and I got a lot in common.
There you go. No, I know we have a lot in common, other shit in common, just because we've talked about so many different things. But so, and I couldn't get a job up in Virginia. Like North Carolina, PE teachers were starting out at $26,000 a year. Virginia was 45. So, 22 years old, 19 grand, that was a big deal. And my
all
family,
the money, baby.
Yeah, my family was up in Virginia, and I wanted to be in Virginia bad, but I couldn't get a job. And I got a job like at the last second, Purnell Sweat High School in Robeson County, North Carolina. And the football coach at the time was like, will you work with the JV, football team, defensive backs, whatever. And I love football, like love it. Matter of fact, I'd rather go to a football game than a baseball game, like
like my family,
as a spectator. But as far as coaching it, I don't have a whole hell of a lot of business coaching it, but I did it to take that PE job. And then I got to coach the JV baseball team. I was the head coach or whatever. But that summer I started the Canes.
Oh, so that would have been what? That was 2000.
That was 2005. Yeah. And the reason I started the Canes is I walked into Buffalo Wild Wings during Christmas break. I was at home, and I ran into one of my high school teammates who was 2 years older than me, and he was running AAU baseball in Orlando at the Disney Wide World of Sports Complex. And he's like, he asked me what I was up to, and I told him, and he's like, if you put a team together and you come to Florida, I'll comp you a bunch of rooms and I'll waive your entry fee. And I was like, okay. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, that'll be fun. I'm not doing anything this summer. So I started calling around the people I knew in Virginia and the people that I knew in North Carolina. And then I'm coaching high school ball. So I'm running around. I'm just trying to compile the best players I can find to go on this trip. So I went all in, and we did car washes for uniforms, fundraisers. We took vans, and my old college coach, who I'm very close with to this day, he let us stay in the dorms, and we practiced for 3 days. and then we van down to Florida and played. And that was the Canes. So it was 2005. It's one team. So obviously 17 years later, you know, I know where we're at now, and it certainly wasn't planned by any means, but to get from that to here, it's evolving with the times, and things are ever changing in this industry, and a lot's changed from 2005 to now. But I really, being involved with just so many great people that you trust to do a good job, and that's it. I mean, in 17 years, I mean, I don't think we've only let one person go in 17 years. I mean, we've got continuity. Yeah, we got continuity throughout this organization.
Yep. You know what I love about what you just said, though, is like, and I've heard Matt Gerber, Gerbs, you know.
Yeah.
You obviously know. Like, and this is good. Again, goes back to my ignorance. He always shares that story. I think it's really easy. You in the industry, let's talk real here. You guys are an industry giant. In a lot of ways, you're probably one of the leading, if not the leading organization in the country. But everybody sees that. And what I love is, like, I've heard him say multiple times, like, I remember Jeff Petty and the Canes when they were one team with printed, you know, screen printed shirts on the back and whatever. So, and that's what I love, because I think it's easy for people to cast this net about, oh man, they just this, but you guys made that thing.
Sure.
Through hard work.
Well, a lot of people have played a role in making it what it is. I think a lot of pride goes into that. And I mean, yeah, we've gotten larger and doing things differently now or whatever, but yeah, I mean, it's great people have helped us get where we're at.
So taking it from like back to that crossroad, because that's the stuff I always love, because I'm listening to you talk, and I remember that, you know, I'm trying to play it out in my life when I came to that road, like, okay, I thought I was going to do this, but this happened. Take that off. But this happened. So that would have been 2005, and it was more kind of an injury thing, kind of kicked off or jump started it.
Like to coach?
Yeah.
Or, well, I mean, I was never going to be like a lot of kids think they're going to be big leaguers or whatever. I mean, I got to a Division II school and I looked around and I wasn't even close to one of the best players on the team. You know, that's when it sets in, and it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to play professional baseball. Like I guess at 16 or 17, you dream on that, and then you realize other guys are better players than you, and it's just not in the cards. So coaching was very clear. That I think I figured that out early in college. You're going to coach even before I got hurt, right? Like, I'm going to be a coach. If I want, no, let me rephrase that. If I'm going to stay in this game, which that I love, I'm going to have to do it through coaching. It's not going to be play.
But so that love, that passion. So who do you think in your early days? I know you mentioned your high school coach. Who was it? I mean, who put it in? Who put it in? Who put it in?
Well, I think I learned a lot of my advanced baseball from my college coach. Yeah. I mean, he's a great coach, and he's still there to this day. And things change, you know. He was at a D3 school. Well, he was a D1 assistant, took a D3 head job, took them deep into the playoffs at Division III level, then got hired at our school, which was Division II. We broke every single winning record, every single record that there ever was at our school. I mean, back in the day, you could go, you know, D3, D2, and then he'd be a D1 coach, and it hasn't worked out that way for him. But he could coach with any of the D1 guys any day of the week. But I learned a lot from him. Paul O'Neill's his name.
So a lot of the things you said, that he's a great baseball guy. Do you guys do something? I mean, do you still use those same philosophies just across the organization of the Canes, or do you kind of let everybody run their own ship on the individual teams?
There's so many teams now that we just, as long as the why is the right thing, and you're in it for the right reasons. I mean, quite frankly, you know, if you're running a team and you're gifted this team, and you know, you want to bunt in the first inning, and that's what you want to do. Like, there's no way to helicopter that many teams, right? Even though I'm probably not going to lay down a bunt in the first inning, you know, or whatever. But you know what I mean?
There's what you and I have more. Hey, we have more of that in common. There we go.
Yeah, micromanaging people. People don't like to be micromanaged. Generally speaking, they don't like to be micromanaged. I think if you can just you can stay away from certain things, certain problems, just general things that are right and wrong, and you can have success, So yeah.
I was going to say, the shameless. I'm looking back on your shelf there, the hat, because I was going to say we all kind of wear many hats, but you literally wear multiple hats. So about the Mets relationship, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So Tommy Tanis, who's he's in charge of scouting for the New York Mets. He started a tournament. It might have been 10 years ago, and we would actually play at Citi Field. And he brought in 5 teams from all over the country, and we got to play at Citi Field. And he did that for like 3 years. And he invited me in to kind of help with the event and pick the players and teams and stuff like that. And then that kind of died down. And then they offered me like a consulting position. And I think that's just because I coach a lot of good players, and I also see a lot of good players.
Right.
So, I can speak to a lot of kids' character, especially the ones I have for long periods of time. And then I can't necessarily speak to a kid's character that I coach against because I don't really know the kid, but I've seen what the kid can do up close and personal. So that's kind of what that came about. And then I never really wanted to do this scout team thing. I want to keep our identity. And, 2 years ago, I gave in and we went to Jupiter as the Mets scout team. But I told the Mets, I said, well, we'll do it. But if we're going to play 40 games, we're going to play 8 games there. I'd like 4 of the games for us to wear our uniform and 4 will wear yours. And they let me do it. And so that's what we're going to do this summer. This will be the first summer we ever are going to represent them the whole time. But I like the Mets organization, and I love the people, Brian Hayes and Tommy Tanis and all this, the scouting staff, that the guys that I know. And I think it's cool for the kids to put on a big league uniform.
Oh, I think I saw you down in Jupiter last summer. I think you guys were in the Mets gear.
Yeah,
I'm sure you were in the Mets gear. So did you do the scout school? Did you do any of that stuff, or did you just naturally transition into So how does that work now? I mean, do you have when you recommend them to the dudes? So like when maybe not even in the Canes, but somebody else that you see, do you evaluate and pass names of other players onto them? How's that work? Or just
no. I mean, I will talk to our scouting staff about all our players, give my honest feedback. I'm not per se, I don't think they're leaning on me for draft picks and what they're going to take this guy here or there. I mean, so nothing like that per se, but definitely I'm giving advice. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have gotten a call on draft night 10 minutes before we take a guy. Hey, I want to let you know we're getting ready to take Desmond Lindsay, who was our first baseman that summer. And I'm like, I appreciate it, or whatever. But and then just cool. Seeing other players and stuff like that. And then recently, we see guys get optioned, like former players. And then I might call, Brian Hayes and say, hey, saw like Tyler Beatty got optioned by the Giants a couple of weeks ago, or Connor Jones got optioned by the Cardinals during spring training. And I just put it on our guys' radar. Hey, this is what I know, and this is blah, 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 and that type of stuff now. But yeah.
It's funny. I think I always have these weird thoughts, but like as you're talking right there, it's just funny. Did you ever think like 17 years ago that you'd be sitting there and you're rattling off all these names of big leaguer guys when you started on that one field, one tournament, and screen print?
No. We were handing uniforms out of the back of my pickup truck before we practiced in 2005 in the parking lot at UNC Pembroke. So no, to answer your question, absolutely not. But I mean, things evolve and things happen, and I'm super humbled and appreciative that we are where we are, and just want to keep riding the wave.
And I'm not a stalker either, but when I got into this role, I was doing the advisory board for a couple of years and then jumped in full time. But like I wanted to learn about who we were talking to, the Diamond Legions, and so I watched some of your interviews and stuff. And what struck me, Jeff, is like you do run it like a college program. Like you do it differently than a lot. And again, I'll say this, and hope I'm not saying it for you, but I'm sure you'd say the same thing. Whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, it's your way. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think you're as close to at least my observation of doing it differently and like a college. So with all of that, like what would you say makes the Canes, unique, if you will?
Yeah. So all these, it just depends on what level you are within our organization. Like our top team, I had coffee this morning with Mike Griffin, who owns and runs Pro 5, and then Dave Jouse, who's the senior advisory for the Washington Nationals. And he basically goes around, and he's here in town this week in Fredericksburg watching the A-ball team. And he goes and sees all the teams, including the big league team. And he's huge into development. And I was listening to him talk, and I told him that we don't develop players in the summer. I'm gonna be honest with you, we don't. I mean, and I'm guilty of that. And I meet with my team Sunday night. We give them all their stuff. And then Monday, we're in a classroom setting for like an hour and a half. We go out on the field. We walk through all our bunt coverages, picks, first and thirds, all that stuff. And we literally have a game that night, Coach. Like I meet them the night before, and then we have a game that night. And then on Tuesday, we are playing in a tournament where every team we play wants to kill us. Like everybody hates us, right? So yeah, everybody's going to throw their number one arm at us, and that's what we get thrown into. And you don't really know. And you hear things like, you've had kids come through the program, but you don't. If it's a tight ball game, me and you are managing a game, and we know our team, we're going to bring in a guy that we think is one of our higher end arms to manage the game the right way to try to win the baseball game. Well, imagine like inheriting a group that day, like, and I'm supposed to, it's not you're not really, we're putting kids in competitive situations, and we are doing that. We are doing that. But as far as developing them, I think travel baseball, it's hard to develop them. The one thing that we do differently than I think others do is, as long as we're not playing at 8 a.m, we usually try to get a site somewhere and go take people on the field and let guys take lots of ground balls. And it's hard. I was just talking to one of our players earlier. He's never really played first base and hasn't played much outfield, but he can swing the bat, and he plays middle infield. And it's hard for me to ask him to go play left field in a game or play first base in a game unless we give him some reps at that spot. And I think that's the difference. Like, I don't know why other teams don't get out on the field and hit on the field and get their guys reps. And that's a golden opportunity. I mean, me and you are both middle infielders, and we never have turned double plays together, or we're both shortstops, and then I got to go over here and play second base this game because it's an all-star team, and I got to get in. But I've never gotten any reps over there. I've never received the ball from the third baseman to roll a double play because I'm always playing shortstop. I mean, how do you ask a kid to do that? I don't understand, like, how you. But in our industry, a lot of people do that, and that it does make us different. I would say we're not developing. I don't unless you have these kids all the time,
right,
every day. Those if you have an academy and people are walking through your door every day and you're working with them, you're developing those kids.
Yep.
But at our level, anybody that says they're developing, I think they're not.
I love the honesty, Pete, the way you answered that, because I've always, so I can't remember if I shared this with you in private. Well, actually, what we were talking a little bit about before we jumped on here, my gentleman, Mr. Hayden, back with Midland. I can't remember if I was at Miami or Indiana, but I started actually a travel ball program. The little Midland squad, Mr. Hayden funded that when my boys were coming up. And one of the things that I said was, because I'm looking at these clubs playing whatever age, 90 some games a summer. And I'm like, how are these kids getting better? So we kind of scaled it back to 30, whatever. And we instituted the whole development. And, again, not saying that's right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah.
But the different philosophies. And I like that you just said, hey, man, this is how we do it. We know we're missing this piece in this area. But what would you say, though, you guys, okay, so maybe you're missing the development, but you still develop in the middle, which is awesome. What's the biggest thing? So if they're going to come play for the Canes and even what do they get? Like, what's the biggest thing you think? The biggest advantage?
Yeah. So again, and I there's a lot of people in this industry that I do respect a lot. I mean, I can start spouting them off, like Richie Palmer, Bob Reichman, Joe Caruso. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I respect, Mike Garcia, et cetera. But these teams, like, they don't do what we do. It's not that they can't or they just don't want. I don't know why, but I would say if you're a player for us, you may not play that day, but you're going to get 150 ground balls at BP. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's that to me, it's easier to swallow on my day off that I at least got that work in. I have a strength and conditioning coach on the road. So Joe Schmo's not going to pitch today. Hey, Johnny, you will not pitch today. And you're not coming out of the pen. You can put your tennis shoes on and go to the pen with Coach Wright, get your workout in. And then after your workout's over, you can get dressed for the game. That's different than some of the stuff that I see routinely, like kids flipping each other front toss for BP, like no coach to be seen, like at the field. So we usually show up 45 minutes before the game. And people are like, well, where are they at? Well, we're hitting, like we're hitting somewhere else. And we walk up, we're going to play our opponent. No coach to be, that's not every team, but no coach to even be found. A dad in jeans throwing BP or just some crazy. So, I mean, that's just something. I think that we're different that way. I mean, a pitcher, I would come pitch for us because we have a track record of not overusing guys. I mean, we can have a guy go out, throw 4 innings of flawless baseball in a game that we need to win, and he's hit his pitch count for the day that we set for his safety, and his day's over. His day's over. Now, if he's playing for the other teams, not all of them, but a lot of them, that kid's gonna throw 7 innings. And we win a lot of games, Tracy, in the 6th and 7th inning. We really do, because I've got to, if it's like we rank guys A, B, C. You know, if you're an A, you're either starting for us, or if it's a tight ball game, you're sitting there, and it's been told to them before the game. And all these kids are starters in high school. I mean, if they're not starters in high school for their high school, they're probably not very good. So it's, hey, if it's tight, it's the 5th inning and we're only up by 2, you're coming into the ball game, and that's a fresh bullet for us. And that kid's going 5, 6, 7. He's going 3 innings. Meanwhile, the other team usually leaves their guy in. And in the 6th inning, he's freaking beat, and we've got world-class hitters, and he's seen their ass 3 times, whatever, through the order. We're starting to figure some things out, and we win the game in the 7th inning. That's happened hundreds of times in the last 3 or 4 over the years. I can't tell you how many times. But it's just a different philosophy on how to manage it and how to do it.
Well, it's funny too. You said something about a Joe Schmo earlier. And here's an interesting thing. When I was in college, man, we lost a roommate. We put out an ad in the paper, roommate. We actually had a Joe Schmo come live with us. The actual name was Joe Schmo. How about that one? So when you said,
you don't hear that very often.
No, you don't. We thought the dude was joking. The other thing you said earlier too, that we felt a little bit here when I was at Arizona State. You get everybody's best shot. And you go back to that. I mean, this is just my personal observation of what makes, because we were always on the receiving end of players and guys. And I love the fact that winning, you talked about winning earlier. That stuff's important, man. Like, that stuff's important. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. The development, I bet you there's more development going on in maybe some different ways that aren't as maybe tangible. But the fact that the guys that are going through your program are getting everybody's best shot, which I promise you translates on this end. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's huge. It's a fact. It's a fact. So we usually get everybody's not one, but 1, 2. Usually people circle us and they're like, well, we're gonna run our number 1 out, and then our number 2's sitting there to come in relief. Hey, that's fine. I mean, our hitters get a lot out of that, and that's invaluable for our position players, because I don't know that you can really replicate that. I mean, I don't care. You can put a pitching machine up to 95 miles an hour with those even those machines that spit out changeups and breaking balls, but you get in a competitive environment where someone wants to kick your teeth in, and they're good. I mean, I don't. That's invaluable, and it's a fact. It's a fact. So that'll be told to our hitters when we meet on Monday. That very thing will be said, and it's true. And like last summer, I look at last summer, we had a really good team. We lost 1 game last summer, and we got everybody's best every day. And then that's a very odd summer. I mean, this summer we would probably lose 8 games. Hopefully not, but we very well could.
Well, damn, whole 8 games. Come on, man.
Yeah, well, we're gonna lose ball games, but it's hard not to when you're, like you said, you get everybody's best shot every day. You're gonna, but it's not, baseball's different that way.
And again, I do think that has value on the backside of that. Here's the old funny. This is that reflection question of you, and then we'll transition maybe different subject. But like everything, man, that Jeff Petty going up, the PE teacher, boom, I love it. The marginal, not my words, your words, kind of marginal player. Now you're running one of the most successful, if not the most successful, travel ball, org. You could say country, planet, whatever, because we got a pretty good little, setup here in the States. So you're at the top of the profession. What would you go back and tell everything that you've learned now, that young dude that was just starting out? Because I think we're going to have some young coaches that are wanting to grow their organizations and things like that. What would you tell them?
I think you just got to stay the course. You got to stay the course. I think I see people change things all the time. It's like, this isn't working, I'm going to do something different. And I think that's a big mistake, and I never did that. I stayed the course. It worked. Or it's worked to this point. I guess it depends on how you define work. I get to work with people that I love, that I would die for. And I think in churn, I feel like from the bottom of my heart that I have a lot of people that work for me that would do the same. And dude, that's worth more than, that's worth a lot.
The saying, you've probably heard that saying, we're going to stick with the plan. We're going to stick with the game plan, and panic's not part of the game plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
That's what to me, that's what you describe. And I love talking with good baseball people. And again, this is about you. It's not about me, but the moment like that for me, Jeff, was 2013 when we're in Indiana, which not supposed to be in the College World Series. Let's face it. But I remember, man, I'm sitting up there in the press conference, and I just remember literally Dan McDonald and all the, Savage, and I looked down the table, and the thought in my head was, you know what, my system works. You know what I mean? Like, because you want, and the authenticity. You guys have an identity. You stick with it. The plan obviously has worked. I'm sure you said the word earlier. You've evolved. We all have to evolve. So on that, so like, what do you think are maybe some of the major some of the major evolutions that you've had, or maybe not so major, the things that stood out in your career that, hey, I got to do this a little bit differently as the game and times change? Do you remember anything like that?
Sure. I mean, I remember, I tell this story all the time. I remember it was like 2010, and we were in Jupiter, and we got beat that night. It was a quarterfinals. We had a really good team. Max Schrock, Brandon Lau, they're both in the big leagues. They were hitting the middle of our order. That was our 2-3 punch. I think I might have had a couple other big leaguers on that team. Matter of fact, I know I did. But we got beat that night, and we were mainly from 4 states. We had kids from Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. So we would get, so we had the North program and the South program. The North program was our Virginia, Maryland group, and our South program was our North and South Carolina group. And we would kind of take our best players and make a team out of it. And we were really good. I mean, you imagine you get the best high school players from those 4 states, you're going to probably be pretty good. And we were.
Yep.
But we got beat that night by Marucci Elite. And they, back then, this is when Marucci's name was getting hot. Like, it was a huge brand then. And it still is. But that's when their name was hot and all the big leaguers were swinging their bats. And Chad Riley was the guy who was running the team. And he had players. I looked at their roster that night. He had players on his team from like 16 different states. And we got it shoved to us that night by a kid from Southern California. I forget his name, but he was committed to UCLA, and he ended up signing and never played college. And then a kid came in out of the pen from Texas who also signed a pro contract. He was committed to Texas, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting their names, but I just like got on the bus and I was sitting next to our coaches, and I'm like, and we just didn't have the roster they had.
Yep.
You know, and I thought, well, what do we do? I mean, we're just the Canes, and do I need to go out to California and start scouting players? Do I need to start looking at other states? And anyways, Evo Shield called like a couple weeks later, and the season's ending, and we go to Atlanta and meet with them. So we then become the Evo Shield Canes, and Evo Shield was a big brand. It was a big brand, and it helped us draw. And we were like, well, we're gonna this national team that we're gonna do, we're gonna draw players from all over the country for this team. This one team, we're gonna go get guys from all over. And that's what we did. So then I started covering the area code games like I'm a college coach. Like, I'm the only travel coach there. I'm the only travel coach.
And really quick, and I apologize, how many teams? How many teams? So I'm trying to map this in my mind. At that time, we're doing the national team thing. I mean, was that common, or did you kind of?
I think Chad and them
had done right. Okay.
I mean, because they had just won Jupiter 2 years in a row, and that's the big tournament in our industry in the fall.
Yeah.
That everybody, goes nuts about, whatever. But they kind of spearheaded that thought of, I'm going to go get players from all over the country. But we followed them. And I think we did it on a grander scale where we had the bus, and then we practiced, and we did.
You run like a college team.
Yeah. We treated them like they were a college team for the time that they were there. So that was an evolution that we did. And I would have think 10 years later or 12 years later, more people would be doing it, but they don't. I mean, it's, I don't know. It's, got a bigger pool of players when you recruit the whole country, coach.
Yeah. Well, and like, it's just a different way of doing things, because you said it's the one team, and that is an exposure team. And, let's face it too, man, the world we're in now, talk about evolution, is the brand. And that brand means something. And I would assume that has allowed you to expand your organization exponentially.
Absolutely. It's led to other things. It's like I said, it's just one team that we do that with. But there's also other layers. Like now, if your players don't like you, this is what I think. If they don't like you, you're in trouble. Like, I think they need to respect you, but I also feel like they need to like you. And I think that they need to know that you actually care about them, and it's not just all about you. There's a balance there for sure. But nowadays with the kids, all the bat flips and I was just having this conversation. I mean, I don't think I'm ready to get on board with kids flipping their bats in the second inning because they hit a homer. And as that perceived me as not the cool coach, it's a balance. I mean, if it's a walk-off home run, or if it's late and their other team's talking a lot of crap and kid really gets into one and flips his bat in that situation, maybe more okay with letting the kid do that than doing it in the second inning when we're up 3 or you know what I mean? It's
I debate with my sons all the time about that. I'm still just, you know, again, I pride myself on evolving, but the guy that always scared me was the guy that was kicking my ass, and he just didn't say anything. Like, he kept coming. That's the guy that scares me. The guy that kicks my ass that's got to talk about it. I'm like, I'll get him eventually. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah, I agree.
And I was also laughing. And the reason I was laughing, because I would just call it straight, like, you in the industry, we didn't know each other, really have conversations until, you know, we kind of linked up in what our venture that we're doing now.
I practiced on your fields. I practiced on your field several times.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, our relationship.
No, we never met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got good teams. Of course, you're going to practice on fields, man.
Greenspan. I could call Ben Greenspan up at 10 o'clock in the morning and say, "Hey, we're in town today. Can we practice at Arizona State?" And shit, he always would let us practice there. It was awesome.
Of course, we worked that out with compliance ahead of time. So
without a doubt, of course we did.
Yeah,
we did. We did. Of course we did.
But I was laughing. You know, shit, man. You and I are like more there. So I was laughing. You know, because I heard, oh, Jeff Petty. You know, if you hear in the noise, you know, and it's because of the success. You know, that guy's he's this, he's that, he's blah 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 blah. It's almost like the Darth Vader mentality. And so back to when I said, I wasn't stalking you, but I wanted to get to know some of the dudes that were in our organization. And I watched your videos, like the post game, not stuff that you're scripted, but stuff that, you know, yes, there's a camera rolling, but I would say you maybe knew it was, or you did. So I feel like I was getting a clip of the authentic you. And, you know, and it really, it helped me frame my own opinion, which I do in life anyway. But I was like, no, man, I was like, that guy, he gets it. I don't know what, you know, other than they're successful, they're chomping at his heels or whatever. But the stuff that you'd say in your post game. So back to that, they care. They got to care about you. What would you say? And then we'll move on. But like, what is it about you, or you try to convey to your guys to get them to buy in to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, just being honest, like, never going to lie, just going to be completely honest. There's not going to be any sugarcoating at all, like complete transparency. I just feel like as a player, we've all had the coaches where you don't know where you stand and you don't know what's going on. And it's tough to like go to the park and not really know, all right, well, what's going on? Where am I going to play, or what's my role on this team? I feel like if all the guys know their role and you be fair and you deliver on what you say you're going to do, the guys' buy-in is there. And that's my it's worked. It's worked. No, it's awesome. You know, and that would work. Some guys can't handle that, right? Like some guys, you're right. Some guys end up. I've had guys that hate you then, but then like 5 years later they text you.
Just got a note today. Just seriously, just somebody's turning 50 and they're like, "Hey, I'm reaching out to the 50 people in my life that, hey, I didn't understand what you were doing back then, but I get it now." You know. Yeah, that's why I think that's why we do it. Just shifting gears a little bit, like, you know, we got to know each other, the Diamond Allegiance. You know, what do you see the value, and, you know, why did you decide to be a part of this with us?
Yeah, I mean, people's a big reason. You start talking about, you know, yourself, Erik Bakich. I mean, Erik Bakich I think he's one of the best baseball coaches on the planet. And then same thing with Kevin O'Sullivan too. You know, I mean, these are guys that I've known a really, really long time. And, you know, obviously in our industry, like, they kind of have to keep me at some length, right? Like, we have really good players. So, but I've never felt you know, but I can read that like a book, and that's fine. Right. Like we totally have the guys out there that's all it is. And that's okay. Like, that's transactional. That's fine. Like, it's not about me. It's about the kid and giving the kid or helping the kid get the right fit. And if that's so be at a school where the guys are just more, not using's not the right word, but it's just a transaction. It's not not really a relationship. And there's tons of those out there. But I've always felt as if, like Bakich specifically, there's a little more to our relationship than that. And I can back that up with, I mean, I know for a fact if I needed something, like, and he could reasonably do it, he would do it.